Today I wanted to read a piece that I wrote entitled A Letter to Hindu Youth in America. And I don't want to just read it straight out, but I want to read it with some commentary, perhaps to make it a little bit more within reach of a wider audience than would be by simply reading it. And this particular letter to Hindu youth in America was inspired by a colleague of mine, uh, and a younger colleague of mine, a young man in high school from the Indian, uh, with Indian origin. His family immigrated to the US, and perhaps he was a young man, so he does recall life in India, but he's become very westernized, perhaps, yet still maintaining some religious and cultural aspects. And this young man was about to is a straight A student, and he had gotten accepted at a prominent university to study pre-med, and with the intention to eventually become a doctor, perhaps. So I'm just gonna read the letter. Dear Paulesta, when I ran into you at the gym, you asked me how the new job was going, and I wanted to elaborate more on my answer. Better. My answer was better. The job is better, the new job. Me and this young man were working as servers at a restaurant, and I had gotten another job as an employee at a bank. In fact, I told him it was better, but the best job, if one can justly afford, is no job at all. But if it is necessary to maintain the bare necessity of life, then the job that leaves you with most energy when the workday is over. In order for you to be able to focus on your cosmic occupation, becoming an avatar. And here you can immediately see the theme of this letter. It's completely demolishing all of these modern dreams for the youth, modern pre-cut dreams, ready dreams that are forced and fed and incepted into the consciousness of the youth throughout their time in schools. My friend, may he rest in peace, Willow, used to call the schools government training camps, and perhaps more accurately are slave training camps. They are camps for the billionaires to prepare the future employees, lowest level employees, button pushers, box stackers, and to create both the employees and the consumers. And in the letter, I'm reminding my friend, and whenever I talk to anybody, whenever I write anything to anyone, it's always the same kind of message that I want to remind myself with. The majority of the times I write these letters and I never send them out, and I keep them for myself or I share them with other people, because sometimes I feel that these letters would be way too confrontational. Becoming an avatar is the cosmic occupation. So if you become a doctor, or you become an engineer, or you become a server or a bank teller, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is you do whatever you need to do in order for you to maintain a roof over your head and food on the table, and to have enough energy once the job is over, in order for you to be able to uh, focus solely on your occupation, becoming an avatar. Now, this is what the Hindu tradition would call an avatar. An avatar is basically a representative of God on earth. Avatars in the Hindu tradition have been known to be humans, but there's also been other creatures that have been avatar, other animals, turtles, hares, owls perhaps, and we have no issue with that. We have no quarrel with that. All beings, all creatures, we are all under the same dharma, under the same uh, law, cosmic law. Uh, we are all men, human beings, perhaps would be the most high out of the created world. So everything in the created world has the potential to evolve into human, and the human in himself has, as Rumi would said, as the traditionalists always saw, has all the animals within him, and as he evolves through his animalistic, from creepy crawlers and so on, up to very similar to what you would think, what we've learned from Darwin's theory of evolution, how we started from single cell and then all the way up to out of the ocean into the reptilian, and then from the reptilian into the perhaps birds and animals and so on, and then eventually the apes, and then from the apes coming human being. That is not a brand new idea when Darwin came up, or when Darwin reached his conclusion. It was actually an old idea that had to do with the transformation of the soul. The only thing that Darwin did with it was limited to the body, and such is the majority of the findings of the modern world are mainly taking all traditional cosmological vertical outlooks and simply uh, extrapolating it forward and downward into space and time. So they take cosmological ladders, cosmological maps, and because the modern world does not believe in anything other than the material realm, so they take these cosmological maps and they project it in a two-dimensional plane. And claim some sort of uh, geniusness for that. They are basically doing what Einstein said about uh, being a genius. It has to do with hiding the sources of where you get your material. But since we brought up Charles Darwin, it's interesting to say that Darwin himself was not an atheist. But when he came up with his idea in his book, The Origin of Species, he specifically said, life having been originally breathed by the creators into a few forms, having been breathed by the creator into a few forms. So this idea that life starts with nothingness, even Darwin himself does not agree with. You have to start with something, and that something, he said, it can be all of the animals, it can be a few of them that were created by a breath of a conscious creator, consciousness. And then on they started to evolve. Anyways, that is beside our topic. So, becoming the avatar. In the Islamic tradition, becoming a wali, becoming a vicegerent of the divine, reaching your potential, reaching your goal, reaching your dream that you had, whether you remember it or not. Majority don't remember it. Few people remember this. Before coming into this creation, as souls, we all stood there in that divine oneness, and we all like signed a contract, like signed an agreement of coming in here in order to realize the divine oneness in the limited world of multiplicity. And that is the ultimate hide and seek game. Hence, we find so much pleasure in hide and seek as children and in learning as grown-ups, because learning and hide and seek, what they have in common is the truth is hidden behind our ignorance of the hiding place, and then when we discover it, there is an aha, there is a moment of celebration, cheerfulness, of becoming one with the other team who was hiding and the team who was searching, and the same thing, your question and the answer finally meet and become resolved, and the duality becomes unity, non-duality, perhaps a better word. So let's go back to my letter. This job people pursue, I'm talking about jobs, what people do for their relative being, for their limited being, not for their ultimate being. This job people pursue to make their parents proud and their frenemies envious is suicide. I'm being a little bit hip here. I'm well, not hip because I grew up watching Friends, and for me to use a reference from Friends might be. I'm not gonna comment on this, but generally, when we try to impress people, either who like us or hate us, and this is something within the human shortcomings that we have to evolve from, like many other qualities that we have to let go of that don't serve us. Trying to impress people, trying to get people's approval, and it's definitely harder for youngsters, but I'm noticing this Zeta generation is much quicker to achieve this. I don't give a fuck what you think of me, this is what I am, which used to take people from my generation 40-50 years to get to. So the fact that this young generation is achieving such consciousness at 10 years old is a sign that on the cosmic plan the change is coming, because this young generation that doesn't require approval is the kind of generation that cannot be controlled, because the masters, the billionaires, the capitalists, they depend heavily on reward and punishment systems. So when you have a group of people that behave like donkeys, or that accept I don't want to say transformation, but a reduction of their potential. The Quran talks about God transforming people, or damning people into monkeys and donkeys and apes and so on. And some short-sighted, small-minded people think of this as a literal transformation. In reality, it's those who know understand that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says someone has been transformed into an animal, not even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you're reading a fairy tale and you see that Pinocchio was turned into a donkey, and all those boys who went into that pleasure island, was it Pleasure Island, became donkeys, became animals. That's really a metaphorical transformation. It's really the inner soul. That's what happens to their soul. There's a autobiography. Frederick Douglass said that, and I'm gonna repeat the meaning of the quotation, because I probably cannot say the exact words. But a person that cannot read and a person that does not read, there is no difference between them. A person that cannot read and a person that does not read, or perhaps a creature that cannot read and a person that does not read. Then you can see how a human being that forgoes his relationship, his gateway to the inner workings of other humans, other beings, especially higher other beings, higher beings, if you're able to peek into the inner workings of higher other beings, you're able to become a higher other being. And when you close those doors on yourself, or you live in a society that forcibly closes these doors for you, for example, like these doors were closed for the African Americans in America when reading and teaching a black African person to read was criminal. So in physics, this job people pursue to make their parents proud and their frenemies envious is suicide. And I just want to say how proud I am to be the father of I'm gonna leave this part out because I don't have a nice way of saying it without revealing more than I want to reveal. In physics, you learn that if the center of mass of a body is outside it, that body will be out of balance and so set into motion. Right? So if I have this body right here and I lean it this way, the center of gravity, if I'm standing up on its edge like that, the center of gravity is inside of it, and hence it's going to stay standing. But if I start to lean it forward, the center of gravity will, if you remember any physics or if you just have any common sense, you lean something over, the center of gravity moves outside of it, and as soon as it moves outside of it, that object begins to move. And imagine the same way when you become uncentered as a human being, those who were able to manipulate your center of being are now in control of your moving body. Hence, you have become a slave. In physics, you learn that the center of and so set into motion. In other words, that unbalanced object become enslaved to whomever captures its center of mass. In the case of physicians, now because this young man is interested to become a doctor, I'm giving an example of how the center of mass of doctor becomes in the hand, and who has the center of mass of doctors. It is insurance companies and pharmaceuticals. In a few weeks, you're about to be set into motion. I follow the money. That's what the young man told me. I'm gonna follow the money. Spoiler alert. I will tell you where the money leads, to a grave. There was a movie called Other People's Money, and it had Danny DeVito. And it's a movie about, from the 80s perhaps, or maybe the 90s, and it's about this time of mergers and acquisitions and how these ruthless companies would buy successful companies and break them up and destroy them and fire people, and just to make profit and not to show any real value, not to add any value. And this is what happened to the American economy, and this is what is happening to the world economy. It's a matter of trying to show money on paper, and well, not paper anymore, on in databases and Excel and accounting sheets, to show money regardless of having any real money being produced, or real value, or real added value to society. It is not adding value to society that is the decision maker, but adding zeros to accounts that has become a decision maker. And hence a lot of destruction has come into the structure of the modern company, of the business world, but also to the environment. A lot of the, and also to the nutrition that we are eating. All of this cost cutting, all of this pollution, all of this trying to get the products cheaper, it's all a matter of reflecting higher profits, regardless if it is destroying more environment, regardless if it's harming people's health, regardless of any of these things, because we haven't managed to measure that with money. We measure everything with money. When I say we, I'm talking about the modern world. So, the modern world removed God from the equation and put money. So, next part of my letter, I talk about the adage, the saying that time is money can only apply to immortal beings with infinite time. Only if you have an infinite supply of time can you say that time is money. But if you know that your time is limited, time is really priceless. Time is God, and God is now. A centered man does not follow anything but his heart. And when I say here heart, I am talking about heart in the Islamic sense as qalb. And that is not your desire, it's something deeper. Heart, the Buddhist and the Zen translation sometimes would call it the heart mind. So if you want to call it the mind, it wouldn't be the logical mind, but a higher intellect, higher intelligence that is accessible to all of us through stillness, meditation, awareness, seclusion, many different practices, many different substances, the mushroom, the psychoactives can help you become more aware and more awake to this heart mind. But once that happens, curiosity is your lighthouse. When you find the heart mind and you start to see darkness and you start to become aware of your curiosities, what you are interested in, truly interested in, what you are ignorant in, that becomes your lighthouse. It becomes your compass, and it will direct you towards what you need to be doing next or now. Your parents have given you the ultimate gift of bringing you to America. Now, writing this letter, I had a certain mindset in mind. Perhaps now that I am saying this out in the open, a lot of people will be very, very critical of such a claim. The ultimate gift coming to America, land of Donald Trump and Republican and Democrat politicians who are bought by corporations and foreign governments, and they'll do anything but what's good for the people and what's good for America. And are you sure this is an ultimate gift? People can argue, but I'm talking about India versus America. I'm not talking about Iceland versus America or Sweden versus America. And even with that, I would still rather be in America. But that would take me to a side conversation that perhaps is better to be saved for another video. But simply said, that the freedoms of speech that are available for people in the First Amendment and the right to peacefully assemble, these two, regardless of what the American people are doing with it, that is better than what is available in India or in Saudi Arabia or in Jordan or in Egypt or in a lot of the places in the world. Again, that is an interesting subject, but not our subtopic right now. I would like, if there is interest, to expound more on this topic. Bringing you the ultimate gift of bringing you to America, these dreams they have stuffed you with are good in places like India. So a lot of the parents of kids who come from places like the places I had just mentioned, where the majority of the people are oppressed and live in below poverty line, and a small minority governs by force, and they don't represent the people democratically. They govern by force and they subdue oppositions. And the only way to be able to achieve a level of better life, because if you live in the public sector, public schools, public libraries, public uh, pools, gyms, public beaches, it's all gonna be really, really terrible. And public health, obviously. But in order to achieve what you would call world class, you would have to be from the inner bubble, from the bubble that is either in that minority bubble or closest to them. So the closer you can attach yourself to them, the more luxurious your life will appear. Having servants, having chefs, having uh, large houses with modern technologies and so on, versus living in mud huts with sand under your ground and perhaps some animals living with you in the house. And perhaps having many family members who die from basic diseases and famines and things that sound like we shouldn't be experiencing in a world that has achieved such outstanding leap, one giant step for mankind. It doesn't seem to have covered all of mankind, this giant leap. It seems to have only included few. So these dreams that they stuffed you. So you notice a lot of these foreigners, when they come to the US, their children tend to be overachievers. They become doctors, they become engineers, scientists, and they do that because the children basically succumb to this idea of making their family proud, and they function in the same mind of the society that the parents came from. Whereas in this society, in the American society, word is king. That is why they put it first in the Constitution. You will see a lot of Indian and Arabic comedians who get into stand-up comedy. They always joke about how their parents are not proud of them for becoming comedians instead of being doctors and engineers. But in reality, these individuals have managed to forego idols that don't have substance anymore. Dawn of the idols. They have become aware that even if I become an engineer and become successful financially, it doesn't do anything for my cosmic occupation. It simply gives me makes my life more agitated and make it harder for me to become aware of what's going on in my heart mind. Hence, anxieties, depression, all kinds of psychological disorders start to bubble up, and instead of slowing down, stopping and going into seclusion and paying attention to what's happening inside of us, it opens a domino into pharmaceuticals, psychiatry, and a whole bunch of things, and maybe shopping that really don't do anything to change the cause of our disorder. Now I'm saying that governments over there function with ruthlessness. So in this next page here, I say now at times here, i.e., the USA, behaves a lot like there. Sometimes this country here had instances in history and today where they behave with brute force towards their own people, like they had done with the Native Americans, the genocide of the Native Americans, like they had done with the enslavement of the African people, and Jim Crow laws and all kinds of police brutality after that, like they had done with the Japanese during World War II. A really great book, uh, definitely worth checking out in the library, is called They Called Us Enemies. They Called Us Enemy. And this was written by George Takei. George Takei is famous for being one of the cast of the original Star Trek. He was Takei. And these Japanese families were forced to sell and forgo a lot of their property, their businesses, their money, and they were all taken into concentration camps. They were put on trains, and they lived in stables. The book is really nice because it's written in a comic way, so it's really can hit a large audience, because you see very nice done illustrations and few words, and you get the the picture and the image and understand very quickly. And perhaps it was written for a younger crowd, and the after taking away all of their what they owned, they put them in horse stables, in barns. Families were staying in barns. They gave them beds, but there was still hay underneath their feet, and they said that they could still smell the smell of the horses, and I don't know, there was still some manure there or the residue of that. And imagine that happened in America in the 40s and 1940s. That's not 60 and 20, not 80 years ago, 86 years ago. Unbelievable. And then eventually they put them in trains and they sent them into these uh, camps that they had built in the south, in like Alabama or some, Arkansas or Alabama, and they were there for a good 2 or 3 years. So imagine growing up like that. So sometimes this country acts in a very ruthless manner. And since we mentioned this book, I like to mention my favorite phrase. George Takei's dad died before there was any apology from the US government. I believe the first president who apologized, I don't know if it was George Bush Sr. or was it Clinton. So it was either 1992 or closer to 2000. And they apologized to the families, and every member who had been in these camps and was still alive was given apology check, reparation check of $15,000. Of course, that's nothing, but it was the gesture that having the U.S. president apologize to the to the Japanese American community who had been treated so terribly. That in itself was huge. But George Takei's father did not live long enough to uh, see the fruit of his patience, because some Japanese families, when that happened, the US government gave them an opportunity to go back to Japan and forego their US citizenships, and some of them did that. But George Takei's father, Takai Sr., he told George that the wheels of democracy move slow. And that's a very important message, that the youth of immigrants, and especially of minorities that are discriminated against, should be patient and should be aware of, and shouldn't be selfish and shouldn't be quick to react, and should read the history of America and compare what they are experiencing to some of what I had just mentioned. Now, at times, here behaves a lot like there, marching to might is right instead of Satyameva Jayate. Satyameva Jayate is a Sanskrit truth, perhaps from the Vedas or some of the other Hindu text. It basically means the truth is always victorious in the end. The truth is always victorious. Truth is always victorious. So if you are with truth, all you need is faith and patience. And a lot of traditions, they believe that even if you die before realizing the fruit of truth, you have died for a rightful cause and will experience nirvana or a positive rebirth or heaven or whatever your culture or your religion considers worthy or achieving your cosmic mission. So remember that and always keep that. That's a powerful phrase. And I like to keep powerful phrases in the original languages, because with that language the invocation itself, uh, I think, has uh, when invoked, it moves, causes a larger vibration in the metaphysical realm through metaphysical souls and through generations who have had that truth, and also because it comes from sacred texts that are the utterings of the divine, and hence when you maintain that phrase in the same language that the divine uttered it, you are also imploring and imploring. You are in a way also uh, inviting the divine to come into presence and come into beings and come into avatars and awliya and Buddhas. When avatar to be is guilted to swallow their parents' dreams to the infinite vastness of their own heart, the infinite bounty of heaven, they are also leaving the people vulnerable, not a typo, to coercion. This is a mouthful over here. But what I'm basically trying to say, when an avatar to be, when someone who has the potential to become an avatar, and to become an avatar, you have to be a Hindu. If you are a Muslim, you would become a wali. In reality, all humans have the potential to become avatars, but very few attempt or take that direction. Let's take a side note right now. A really wonderful book worth reading is The Conference of the Birds by Fariduddin Attar. It's from the Sufi tradition, and it is the story of birds that decide to take this trip to meet the Simorgh, or the perfect bird. And it's a symbolic, metaphoric story. And in that story, you will hear all the excuses that the human mind can come up with in order not to pursue this path to become an avatar, and to just succumb to some relative dream that is pre-made, pre-cut, available at any conventional disorganization. So when an avatar to be is guilted, made to feel guilty, there is another feeling that we need to forego, feeling guilty. We don't need to feel guilty anymore. One of the names of the divine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the all forgiving. So as long as we remember that He is all forgiving, then there is no place for guilt. The biggest guilt comes out to be a beautiful poem for one of the Sufi poets from the Islamic tradition. Says, if oh Lord, I'm gonna try to translate on a whim right now, but let's see. Oh Lord, if my what's the let me see. Instead of using my memory, I'm gonna try to use the memory of the internet. Let me see. Uh, يا رب إن عظمت ذنوبي كثرة فلقد علمت بأنك عفوك أعظم. Oh Lord, if my sins were too many, I had if oh Lord, oh Lord, if my sins were too many. Sins are anything that will cause you to feel guilt. If my sins are too many, I have learned that your forgiveness is much greater than all my many sins. إن كان لا يرجوك إلا محسن, if only the righteous can ask for your forgiveness, so to where shall this criminal, to whom can this criminal find refuge in? So it's a kind of like a short poem. It's just two verses uh, that synthesizes this cosmic truth about the divine, the divine's aspect of forgiveness. As long as you remember the divine, that in itself is the forgiveness. And forgetting the divine, that is the greatest sin of all. That's also another adage from a famous Sufi master. Okay, let's go back to our book. Ooh. So, when an avatar to be is guilted to swallow their parents' dreams, oh, I gotta make my family proud, I gotta make my friends envy, I gotta do better than my best friend and make my, anyways, it's garbage that has no it all comes out of the seed of feeling guilty. And any person with depth and insight and experience in life knows that you can only get to what you are planting today. You will only harvest what you are planting. So if you are planting guilt, all the actions coming out of that guilt will be disgusting. It will be rotten. It will be not sweet, not worth waiting for. They will not be the kind of fruits that people seek to eat, but they will be the kind of fruits that will bring you shame and make other people feel bad. And send you to eternal hell in the hereafter. So instead of, if they forego the infinite vastness of their own heart and fill it, make it into a shallow grave to fill it up with their guilt, the infinite bounty of heaven, which was which is the inheritance, which is the rightful inheritance to avatars. Avatars have an infinite bounty. They have the infinite wisdom of heaven, of the divine. When they forego that cosmic mission, they are not only harming themselves, but they are putting all society in harm's way. Now, you remember I had mentioned that everyone has the potential to become an avatar, but not everyone actually becomes an avatar. Not everyone needs to become an avatar. You need one avatar. You need 40 avatars. You need 200 avatars. The remainder of the people need to be lovers of avatars, lovers of awliya, people who respect the wisdom of those people who have taken these steps to purify themselves in order to receive the divine wisdom, in order to become receivers of, or in order to elevate their consciousness, to listen to that Godhead, to become in the audience of that highest intellect of available to mankind, humankind. As long as we create societies where such individuals are able to speak without being crucified, and our society hearing them without having to sell commercials. And we have a society that, in America, in the USA, that allows for freedom of speech, but they have placed a monopoly on the ears of people. So we are not able to reach everyone's ears. At least it's very challenging through the technological way. I am one reason why I've started to make these videos is to hopefully start to attract this kind of change. And if I'm not very hopeful on where it can go technologically, because I have a feeling that they will only allow it to go unmonitored, uncensored, uncontrolled to a certain level. I believe that we have to, and the purpose of this video is an invitation to create a grassroots movement in your cities and also in my city here in Memphis, where individuals with like-minded hearts, avatars, lovers of awliya, come together and create a discussion. So avatars don't want you just to follow orders. They are not the kind of people who enforce an order by force, but the avatars, they have the highest intellect. And when the highest intellect, when the words with so much meaning and purpose are heard, they convince people. You don't need to be forced to follow, but following them is natural. When you live in a society that has liberated themselves from the reward and punishment system. Hence, coming back to the Zeta generation, that is definitely my main audience that I'm trying to reach. And anyone else who identifies as Zeta, like me, I identify as Zeta. And in the absence of truth, whenever the truth is censored, lies don't sound so bad. That's why it's dangerous to crucify the prophets. It's dangerous to crucify the avatars. It's dangerous to imprison them. It's dangerous to expel them. Because when that happens, lies don't sound so bad. And people, consciousness of societies starts to become very murky, and people feel that they don't know where up from down, where right from wrong is. The First Amendment gives our words free rein, but capitalism produces awful, selfish, narrow-sighted minds. Other places have great minds, but governments that are eager to sever them as soon as the wrong words come out of them. You must become the great minds of there, here. Become a doctor if you must, but a healer of spirits before that of bodies. Become an avatar. That's what an avatar is, a healer of spirits. Jesus Christ did not revive physical bodies, but he revived souls, metaphorical. Jesus Christ is not a persona, is not exclusively a persona that existed 2,000 years ago, but Jesus Christ is every avatar, is every wali, is every saint, is every sage that can speak to you and awaken something inside of your heart that had been dormant or that had been poisoned by conventional government training centers, schools, parents, governments, employers, definitely employers. But most of all, by ourselves. For the sake of harmony. So become an avatar for the sake of harmony of all levels of society. Become an avatar for the sake of workers, for the sake of business, and for the sake of government. An avatar will have a positive effect for all members of society, even the capitalists, the governments, the billionaires. The avatar does not come to eradicate them, but comes to put them in their rightful level. In this next section, I start to discuss ideas using Hindu caste system titles. So in my writing, I did not put any footnotes or explain myself. I feel that footnotes and explaining yourself in today's world of quick touch and search is a little bit redundant and can seem annoying to those who know this information. And the purpose of this video is for the lazy, is for the people I love the most, the lazy people. And here you don't even have to push the button. I will say whatever I wrote and I will explain it. So in the Hindu caste system, let's pull up the Hindu caste system. Hindu caste system. So the Hindu caste system is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Into 5 categories. When I had written this article, I really thought it was 4. I guess I have taken the lowest group as 1, but in the Indian caste system, it breaks it into 2. And when I discuss this caste system, I am not discussing something that... Why does the volume keep... Oh, shit. Never mind. So when I discuss the caste systems, I'm not discussing something that is dated, that doesn't exist anymore. Like when we talk about slavery, or we talk about the business class and the Vaishyas and the ruling class, the Kshatriyas. And I'm not discussing ideas that are out of date or are no longer relevant, but I'm talking about the kind of role that individuals serve in a society. So in the Indian caste system, you have the Brahmins are supposed to be the people of God, the people who read the scripture, the people who become the avatars. The Kshatriyas, right after them, that's the ruling class. That's the government. Following them is the Vaishyas, that's the merchants, the craftsmen, the business owners. Following that, the Shudras, which are the workers, the employees, the servants. And following that is going to be the Dalites, which are the untouchables. And these are the outcasts, street sweeper, human and animal waste removers, dead bodily handlers, and outcasts. So in a quick way to kind of wrap your head around it is to imagine the human body, a drawing of the human body. Let's say this is the human body. Let's say this is the head here. This would be the Brahmin. And then the chest, that would be the Kshatriyas. And then the stomach part, that will be, so the head will be the Brahmins, the people who expound on the holy scriptures, the people of God, the priests, the sheikh, the imam, right? And then you have the president, the government, the generals, relate to the chest of bravery, so the brain for the wisdom, the chest for bravery, for government, the stomach for business and pleasures, and then the root, which is your sexual reproductive organs. That one is the ones for workers and so on. And let's go back to my. So the Kshatriyas have hijacked God. They kill and imprison real Brahmins and present fake ones to the public. So the president, the government, these folks have taken off the Brahmins, they cut them off, they killed, they crucified the Jesuses, they crucified the awliya, the avatars, they expel them, they imprison them, and then they bring fake ones, they make them look like the Brahmins, and they put them right here underneath them, so that they no longer serve their purpose of being the mouthpiece of the divine, of God, but instead they become the mouthpiece of the government, of the ruling class, and they become what Karl Marx calls the opium of the masses. So imagine when religions that are made to transform lower beings into higher intelligent intellectual beings that become mouthpiece, earpiece, eyepieces of the divine, they become deaf, dumb, and mute and turn into donkeys, metaphorically obviously, and asses. So in this part of my discussion, I am revealing the state of what is happening around the world. I am telling you that if you go to India, if you go to Mecca, if you go to Egypt, the people that you would think are representing God in mosques, especially public ones, they are not real yogis, they are not real sheikhs, they are not real Brahmins. They are fake ones. They simply preach and say what the government wants them to say. They will try to get as many people to peacefully or to be guilt-tripped into doing what the government wants them to do exactly, and those who do not accept or do not become brainwashed, do not smoke the opium pipe, the metaphorical opium pipe, will answer to the brute force of the uh, police and Secret Service and FBI, local ones obviously, that they would have in those different countries. Oppression reigns because fake Brahmins spread fear and hate hidden in half truths. So they don't go out blatantly and start saying hate each other. They will actually study a little bit the scripture, and they will take little bits and pieces from here and there and build whatever message the government is interested to have the people believe. Fake Brahmins spew an opium to the masses, making them surrender to the status quo as God's will. Here in America, things are much worse when it comes to God. Sacred scriptures and the expounding on everything holy. So this was supposed to be happening on this level of our cosmic map. Remember the map of the caste system? Sacred scriptures and the expounding on everything holy had been taken up by the least likely group to understand these mysteries and unlock the truth. Vaishyas, businessmen, and Shudras and employees, and I didn't mention here, but probably also Dalit, what were they called? Dalits, untouchables. So people who don't have the knowledge to understand these metaphors, and hence we have Protestantism and we have Salafism and Wahhabism in the Islamic religion, Protestantism in the Christian religion. Individuals who don't understand these texts and take them for their literal meaning, and they spread destruction, havoc, pain, hate, opposite messages to the whatever the messenger and the prophet and the avatar that had brought that tradition, simply because they don't know how to read it. They don't have the keys to unlocking their meanings. Both groups, the Vaishyas, Shudras, and Dalites, so not both, all these groups are not able to reach the higher truth because they lack the mental capacity and self-awareness to voyage through the symbols and metaphors, and are spreading a dense, dark, discompassionate doctrine. Now, I'm not saying that from a racial perspective. I am saying that those who become occupied, not take it as a job, but take it as their occupation. So their entire existence, they are simply behaving as untouchables or employees, people who define themselves. Hey, I'm a mattress salesperson, that's all I am. And he goes to sleep thinking that's what he is, and he goes home thinking that's what he is. Or even a doctor or a billionaire who finishes his time at the clinic and go home, and someone asks him, what's your name? And he says, I'm Dr. Mahmoud. And that is a mental disorder. People who carry on their jobs, their relative jobs, and become occupied with it, this is a mental disorder, in this lower life, and in the hereafter, that is 100% going straight to hell. A recipe to go straight to hell. That is the direction to go straight to hell. If you think that your relative job is your cosmic occupation, that is a mental disorder. The light of truth is ever present, but yearns. The light of truth is ever present, but yearns for brave intellects with the readiness to traverse the difficult terrain and rise to the highest heavens. Until that time, the Kali Yuga will persist. According to the Hindu tradition, we are currently not living in the most advanced, most amazing, most golden era of mankind, but we are currently living in the Kali Yuga, in the darkest level of human history. And all these advancements, the technological advancements that we are experiencing in the modern world, they are simply on the physical level, and there is no advancement on the spiritual or the soul of the individual or of the society. So, I'll give you an example. All these, take any of the technological advances, before and after. Before the technology becomes a reality, the promise is always, hey, once the factories are automated, you won't have to work here anymore. You will just be at home collecting your money and so on and so forth. But when the technology comes, you lose your job, the products become more expensive. How do the products become more expensive if there are less people working to produce it and you are making it in a more efficient manner? That's really a mystery to me. So the more the technology advances, in actuality, it's not giving us a higher level of being, but a lower level of being. When we created, I remember growing up, going to my father's office. My father had an engineering consultant firm, and the highest tech thing they had there, I think they might have had one computer, they had a couple of typewriters, and they had a telex. And the telex was basically a machine that would uh, communicate with other telexes, other businesses or government agencies that had a telex. And what it was this strip of with punctured holes in it. And I don't remember how they really would read it, if they would take it and stick it into a machine that would print it out or what. But that was part of the communication was super slow. You would write letters, you would send the letters out. People in my father's office were always drinking coffee and sitting with each other, and they had a kitchen. Someone would come and cook. One of the employees would cook. Different employees would cook at different days. There were a bunch of humans sharing experience of life. I'm not saying that that is the ultimate, perhaps. I'm just stating what I remember work was. And I was a young boy going there, and I would like sit on a typewriter and get all these metal metal letters stuck with each other. And I think around 2 or 3 p.m. the day is over, because you've written the letters, you sent the letters out, you've received the letters that were gonna come in that day, and you've handled it, and there's nothing more you could do. And with the coming of emails, and then after that the coming of mobile phones, we thought that the business life would improve. Maybe we will work less when we worked faster. But in reality, we started working more. And with the mobile devices, we started working all the time. Um, so, Kali Yuga, the advancements in nature, in technology, in the material world, has actually caused for a darkening of the human spirit, individual, both individual and collective. And that's what they call Kali Yuga. And according to the Hindu tradition, after this Kali Yuga, we are going to achieve, well, according to the Hindu tradition, and according to all traditions, they all are, everybody is waiting for some Messiah, a Mahdi in the Islamic tradition, and a Messiah, and the Christian, the Jewish, the Buddhist, everybody is waiting for someone to come and fix the world. I'm looking straight at him, or her, or it. Now, when I mention the caste system, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Sudra, right? Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, Shudra, and Dalites, I'm not referring to racial groups of people, but cosmic levels that apply to every people in the world and every religion. With grace, beings from lower realms can transform and transcend their role in the world. I just saw a typo here. I wrote roll, R-O-L-L. It's R-O-L-E. If you read my book, please fix that. For example, Siddhartha Gautama. Who is Siddhartha Gautama? You know? Yes, aka the Buddha. He sacrificed his family's kingdom to become a Brahmin. The Buddha was not a Brahmin. The Buddha was a Kshatriya. He was from a ruling family. His family were rulers. And according to the Brahmins, or the whatever they had done, they had frozen these roles. So they said, if you are born here, you have to do a good job here and die here. And if you did a good job and you served your role, then you will be reborn at a higher caste level. And you can only become enlightened once you've had a Brahmin birth. The Buddha was born as a Kshatriya, and he said, the hell with that. I feel the truth inside of me. I feel the path inside of me. I listen to my heart, mind. He did. But it has to come at a price. You cannot move without selling. In order to go from one level to the other, you have to sell what you have. You have to forego some of your baggages. Maybe not full time, but at least when you are no longer at your job, you need to be occupied with your cosmic roles, which is traversing the vertical cosmic, what we call الصراط المستقيم in Arabic. This is the الصراط المستقيم, the enlightenment, the elevation of your soul, elevation of your consciousness from lower to higher. So the Buddha was enlightened in his lifetime. He didn't have to wait to die and be born as a Brahmin. And that was, according to Brahmins of his time, an impossibility. In the same but opposite manner, many Brahmins have and may forego their cosmic responsibility of being the custodians of wisdom and light into our world, of being the custodians of wisdom and light into our world in order to become Vaishyas, traders of onions, pills, and insurance. So the door can move, it's a two-way street. The door can move in either direction. Hell is infinitely, the path to hell leads to infinity, and the path to heaven leads to infinity. Which direction are you treading towards? The path and vehicle to the evolution of your soul and your transformation, and the way for you to elevate the center of your being from the lower chakras, so the lower stations. If you've ever seen a chakra body map, it's got stations starting at the bottom, moving upwards. In Arabic we say وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ. Stations or lighthouses or milestones in the in a secular project management language. Milestones. So you will move from one milestone to another. You don't have to think. Although it does happen sometimes when you are here, all of a sudden you find yourself all the way up here with the grace. Because you don't move at your effort. Your sincerity invites, your sincerity opens the potential for invitation to move upward. The sincerity of your actions, your intentions, outwardly and inwardly, is what will determine your the speed or the motion. But as long as you remember that the sincerity in itself is the highest achievement, and you don't really, sincerity is the end. Sincerity is the end. You will get to the end. The path and vehicle to the evolution of your soul and your transformation, and the way for you to elevate the center of your being from the lower chakra to the highest, is continuously meditating, chanting, and desiring goodness and blessing to the first created being, and the one in continuous absorption in the Godhead. If you are experiencing a world, if you exist, then you have to know that you are existing and you are breathing and you are sharing. If the sun is shining in the morning and setting in the evening, and the rain comes from the sky, and plants grow out of the earth, and water still quenches people, and air still quenches people and animals and air, still satisfy all living creatures. Then the the restaurant at the end of the universe, the restaurant at the edge of the universe. That's a concept by a fantastical writer. Uh, he wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And although he claims to be an atheist, I really see a lot of his books having very strong metaphorical uh, concepts to the enlightenment journey. So, in the real top intellect, let's see how we can put this in a way that can be understood by at least one person. I recently was hanging out with hanging out. Make it sound like I was recently in the presence of a young man, a young man, and we had after we had talked about experiencing psychedelic drugs, and we had both. I have tons of miles in the psychedelic arena, and he had also dabbled in it. I think dabbled, or he a little bit more than dabbled. But anyways, we put it out in the cosmos that we are interested to do that together, and let me see if I can find it. We put it out that we wanted to do that together, and then we decided to wait till the next day, to the morning. We did our istikhara prayer, which is basically you set your intention, you make a prayer, and you say, if this thing I desire, you say to the divine, you say to yourself, you say to inside is more important, but there's a little bit of vibration in your mouth, or in our case, we were two of us. We did it as a group, and we said this is what we intend to do tomorrow. If there is blessing in this, if it's gonna elevate our consciousness, short term and long term, and bring more light to this world, please make it easy and guide us in it. And if there's going to be digression or a descendant into pits of hell and darkness and non-conducive to the enlightenment to our enlightenment journey and the enlightenment journey of other beings, then please repel it from us and make us busy in better intentions, actions, words, whatsoever. And we went to bed, and then the next day we got together again, and we asked each other what we dreamt about, and none of us had any specific visions or dreams, but some cases people would get an answer in their dreams and messages, and and we'd be able to know by analyzing the dream, perhaps, or meditating on it, contemplating it, whether or not to go ahead with what they had set out or what they had intended. So we did the second best thing, which is, sometimes this is the better thing, which is consult a sacred book. So we got a Quran, we got a Holy Quran, and we opened at a random page. I asked the young man to do it, and he did it, and he opened at a page, and he put his finger, and it was a verse, the verse 64 from Surah Ghafir, the Forgiver, the chapter known as the Forgiver, verse 64. And the verse goes like this: it is Allah. Now we already had the psychedelic mushroom in our possession. It was something that I had. The verse goes like this: it is Allah who made for you the earth a place of settlement, and the sky a ceiling, and formed you and perfected your forms, and provided you with good things. That is Allah your Lord. Then blessed is Allah, Lord of the worlds. So, if we automatically provided you with good things, we took it to be the mushroom and the intention to take it. That's all. We took it as a positive omen, positive premonition. And that is Allah your Lord. Then blessed is Allah, Lord of the worlds. So we took it that there's going to be some traveling for us. We're going to be traveling through the worlds. So this was already a positive premonition that we are going to arrive at the top of the world, because also it says, and the sky a ceiling. It means there is a ceiling, right? And so that was it. We woke up that day, we got that premonition, and we got this verse, and it was very positive. It was a nice, beautiful, overcast, rainy day, and the young man took 3.5 grams of psilocybin cubensis, and I wanted to be there, but since it was the first time for us to do this together, and also because I didn't have a lot of, I didn't have it, I took a much lower dose, because I wanted to be more of like the chaperone during that journey for the young man. And according to the chocolate bar, the amount that I took was, I think, designated as euphoria or something like that, what to expect. And the amount that he took was titled wisdom. And there was another dosage of taking the entire thing, which was going to be 7 grams. I took 2 grams, he took 3.5 grams. And then the third one they called enlightenment. But those are marketing words. Those are words of marketing. And even wisdom, I mean, you will not become enlightened from, let me repeat, let me rephrase. You will not become permanently enlightened from eating a psychedelic substance. No way. No way. If you take ayahuasca, if you take LSD, you take psychedelics, you take any of these things, what you will be doing is you will be moving in stations, but we call it in Arabic change of hal. Hal, the change of hal is versus change of maqam. So change of maqam means changing in stations. Change of hal means change in states. So when you take the psychedelic, you are only moving in states, not in stations, because moving in stations, the difference between moving in stations and moving in states, moving in states is temporary, whereas moving in stations is permanent. When you move in station, it becomes part of the new station, becomes part of your being. It's like when you are a child, you can only crawl, but then you grow a little bit more and then you can walk. So you changed in stations. Right now you can walk, but just because you change in station doesn't mean you can still crawl, right? You can still go back to crawling, and then you can stand up and go back to walking because it becomes a new station for you. So but changing in states, imagine something miraculous happens to the child, or maybe you put him in like a special stroller or some support mechanism where it will give him support him straight up so he can kind of walk, but without the tool he really falls back down to crawling. So that would be what a psychedelic is. It will show you the metaphysical terrain. It will take you through the unseen stations, through states. It will take you through the states. So you will see. And that's what psychedelic means. Psyche, your psyche, your delic means to become manifest. Your psyche will become manifest. When your psyche become manifest, when the inside, when the unseen world will become seen to you. Right? And this is very important. So before I expound some more, I will go back to the story, and I will let the story or the experience that we had convey what I would like to say. After about an hour and a half or so of taking the mushroom, the young man sat in the balcony and just gazed into the forest across the street during this beautiful rain shower, and the weather was nice. It was really very beautiful day to go on a psychedelic journey at home. And I let him do his things like I usually like to do. I sat back, I do a little bit of meditation or just reading. Sometimes reading, I try as much as possible to maintain my mind to read and keep an eye on this young man during his trip. I usually don't like to talk to the person very much unless they come up and talk to me. I usually like to save the conversation to when the trip is over, and then, uh, hey, where were you? What happened? And so on and so forth. So when I asked the young man what happened out there in the balcony, because I noticed that looked like a strong moment for him, and he said, I feel reborn. I felt reborn, and I was the wisest man in the world. Now, these two statements that he made are real statements. He is reborn, he has become aware of a deep reality. He has tasted, or he has seen. See, this world, or this word to taste is very important. We use this in the Sufi tradition, we say dhawq. The equivalent in English would be to experienced. He had experienced a depth so rich that all other natural and emotional and lower experiences that are available to the majority of the people will no longer satisfy this person, and he will forever be hooked to that highest station where he had reached. So I told him, this wisest man that you were, that is what we Sufis call the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. He is the Godhead, the first created being. He is not a historical figure. Well, he is a historical figure, but he is also the source of all the enlightened beings throughout time. So that created that inner world, that unseen world where this first being, the highest intellect, he is not only the Prophet Muhammad, the Nabi Muhammad. Nabi, the word Nabi, which means the Prophet, versus Rasul, messenger. Nabi means has become higher. When something becomes Nabi, it becomes higher, it becomes more heard. So this is his cosmic occupation. He is the first intellect, he is the first creation, and he is also the highest in every creature, especially human beings. The highest, our Brahman self, which is missing to the majority, like majority of the people in the world do not have any representation in the government, like the majority of the people do not own any businesses. The majority of people are workers and slaves, right? And anything above that for them is considered unseen. Now, these lowest of creatures should know that although they don't have any of these things, their highest, most top is this: I am the wisest man in the universe. And this wisest man in the universe, within them, is in slumber, like the story of Sleeping Beauty. She is the Sleeping Beauty that needs to be kissed by your consciousness, your prince, your consciousness. So your consciousness and the seven dwarfs, perhaps 7 layers, the 7 chakras, to climb up and kiss the Sleeping Beauty, and hence put that crown on top of your soul. Bring your soul, revive your soul, your spirit. Revive that Muhammad inside of you. And we mentioned that if the sun is coming out, if you exist, if the world is still there, then that party is still happening. And there are people who are aware of it, and there are people who are traversing towards it. And when there are no more people traversing towards that journey, the universe will end, will be destroyed. When there's no longer anyone to receive the see that the first creature, that wisest man, he's like in the Sufi tradition they describe him as the bartender in the tavern, pouring the wine, the metaphysical wine, the alchemical wine that causes transformation, right? And around him are the circle of friends, the circle of inner circle that receive that light. And when that light is received, it cascades from one level of existence to the other. And if the more we are able to preserve and conserve that water from falling, and we are able to utilize it in every layer, the more beauty, the more compassion, the more love, the more happiness, the more goodness will be spread in the world, the more harmony for all creatures and all beings, both physical and metaphysical. And when the cupbearers are spilling or are not there, and the water that's being poured by this first creature, the first being, by this Muhammad. Now I say Muhammad, but other traditions might know him as with different names. Perhaps Christians would call it the Logos, and maybe Hindus would call it Krishna. So when the wine, the metaphysical substance that's being poured by that highest created being is not finding receptacles and starts to spill into existence and no longer is being conserved and spread around in every layer, destruction starts to happen. Disharmony starts to happen, oppression starts to happen, destruction and disharmony and oppression, pollution, garbage, trash, flies, bugs, diseases, all kinds of terrible, depressing things that we start to see and experience in the world. And until the last cupbearer drops his cup and no one is coming behind him to grab that cup and inherit it and keep the party, the metaphysical, the party at the highest level of the universe, the party at the end of the universe, at the edge of the universe, when no longer anybody is interested in that party and everybody is interested in a Diddy party and a Epstein party, and that's all they want to do, that is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, will destroy the universe and it no longer has a purpose to exist, because it would have ceased to have a purpose to exist. Jai Guru Deva should be your prayer. Jai Guru Deva, does it sound familiar? Jai Guru Deva. Across the universe lyrics. The Beatles sang this in 1969. Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither wildly as they slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my open mind, possessing and caressing me. Jai Guru Deva, nothing's gonna change my world. And then images of broken light which dance before me like a million eyes. They call me on and on across the universe. Thoughts meander like a restless wind inside a letterbox. They tumble blindly as they make their way across the universe. Jai Guru Deva. Nothing gonna change my world. Sounds of laughter, shades of life are ringing through my open ears, inciting and inviting me. Limitless, undying love which shines around me like a million suns. It calls me on and on across the universe. Jai Guru Deva. Nothing's gonna change my world. Jai Guru Deva. Jai Guru Deva is that Godhead. You are asking for blessings to that Godhead. You are asking, you are relinquishing your ego, your limited mind, your small brain for the Godhead that is ever present, ever aware of all the divine names. In Arabic, that prayers is Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. That is what will cause within you transformation of your being, of the state of your mind. the less you want anything. Okay, Jai Guru Deva should be your prayer. The more sincere you are, the faster you will see the changes in yourself. Lower desires and fetishes you used to have and define yourself by will loosen their bonds to you and you will be on your journey to that center of the cosmos. The less you want anything out of the prayer for your lower limited self, but a genuine well-being to the being at the Godhead. And those who have been blessed to drink directly from the source, the stronger will be your pull and gravitation towards them. That being said, you can actually manifest a lot of things for you in your existing station by this prayer. However, if that becomes your sole occupation is to make your station more permanent, then you will basically stop traveling, and hence fall back into hell. But any traveling is already a guarantee place in heaven. So if you die while you are traveling, you will be in nirvana in the next life. But if you build and construct a concrete, permanent existence in this station, that is what will create your hell in the hereafter. Let go. Okay, so the more you have good intentions to the Godhead and those who are drinking straight from the Godhead or overflowing directly from the Godhead, the stronger your pull will be, and the more bountiful will the gifts be bestowed at your feet. And with that, the temptation to pick up a shiny jewel like photographic memory or clairvoyance, and to forget the Godhead destination and to be content with a relatively better view of hell. So these are extreme gifts that I mentioned here. The gift could be a better job, could be a better partner, a better car, a better anything. Like the sirens in Greek mythology that pull the heroes away from the journey and make them forget their journey. And stop and get trapped. In the same way, gifts will be bestowed upon you when you invoke uh, wishing and intending blessings and gratitude to that highest intellect. And also worth noting, something else I wanted to say here. Another, so I mentioned one of the allegories of this is in Greek mythologies when the hero gets gravitated towards the sirens, which are like the mermaids. They call the hero and they kind of sing to him and they give him pleasures, and with it he forgets the journey and he forgets that he is a hero, right? And kind of similar in the story of Aladdin, when Aladdin goes into the cave of wonders and he sees all of these different shiny objects, but he should withhold his intention for the lamp, right? The lamp symbolizes the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. He is the light. Once you get to that light, that is the light that you will be able to see truth in all things, and you will have the key to decipher all spiritual texts and understand their metaphors, and you will be able to not only understand the spiritual text, but also you will understand the natural cosmic text of the divine, and also you will understand yourself and be able to and understand other people and be able to explain other people's selves to them. So you will become an invaluable asset to the world when you become the avatar, when you become the wali. Thank you very much. This comes to, and by this we come to the end of this book. If you are still listening, I think you are a wonderful and amazing human being. And if you have signed off earlier, I also think you are a wonderful and amazing human being, because the path is not exclusive to me. I am simply sharing with you what is cascading onto me, and if you have anything to correct from this session, please by all means reach out, comment, like, do whatever people do in these things. And yeah,